What if one man's fists were literally strong enough to shatter a prison wall? Not figuratively, not as a metaphor. Physically punch through concrete and set every prisoner free. That's exactly what happens in today's film, and trust me, nothing can prepare you for what you're about to witness. A prison transport van rolls down a desolate road, carrying a fresh batch of inmates to one of the most brutal private correctional facilities in existence. This isn't your average maximum security lockup. This place runs on fear, corruption, and the iron grip of 4 gang lords who have carved the entire prison into their personal kingdoms. When the van finally stops and the doors swing open, most inmates shuffle out with their heads down, already broken before they've served a single day. But one young man steps out differently. His name is Ricky, and from the moment his boots hit the ground, you can tell he's unlike anything this prison has ever seen. The guards run their standard intake procedure, but when Ricky strolls straight through the metal detector without slowing down, the alarm screams. They search him head to toe, nothing. So they haul him to the X-ray machine, and what they see on that screen stops every guard in the room cold. 5 bullets, lodged deep inside his chest, sitting there like souvenirs. The guards stare at him in disbelief. How is this man even standing? How is he breathing? One of them finally asks why he never had them removed. Ricky looks back without blinking and says simply that he kept them as a reminder. As long as he's alive, they stay with him. Once the new prisoners are processed and assigned to their cells, we get our first real look at this place in its entirety. The prison is split into 4 sections, each one controlled by a ruthless gang leader. These 4 men collectively form what the inmates quietly call the Gang of 4. They rule with absolute authority, and the most disturbing part is that the warden himself has sanctioned their power. Whatever crimes they commit inside these walls, the warden looks the other way, because in exchange, they funnel money to him from criminal operations on the outside. It's a perfectly corrupt machine, and it has been running without interruption for years. But then Ricky arrived. It doesn't take long for that machine to encounter its first real obstacle. In one of the prison workshops, an elderly inmate named Ma is being tormented by a group of prisoners loyal to Samuel, the right-hand enforcer of the North Section gang leader. They grab the small wooden toy train Ma had spent weeks carefully crafting with his own hands, a gift meant for his son waiting for him on the outside, and they smash it in front of him. Every other prisoner in that room watches in complete silence. Nobody moves. Nobody says a word. The atmosphere is suffocating with fear. What makes this moment even more devastating is the context. Ma was just days away from release on bail. He was about to go home. But Samuel leans in close and whispers that Ma won't be going anywhere until Samuel personally decides otherwise. That's all it takes to shatter the old man. Something snaps inside him, and he grabs a nearby wood-cutting tool and lunges at Samuel. It's a desperate move, fueled by rage and helplessness, but Samuel is far stronger. He rips the tool away and beats Ma across the face with it, leaving him bloodied on the workshop floor. When guards finally appear, they don't intervene. They watch Samuel walk away, then quietly work to bury the incident entirely. As Samuel moves through the corridor afterward, satisfied with himself, he walks directly into Ricky. The collision sends Samuel tumbling face first onto a board covered in nails. The scream that tears out of him echoes through the hall. One of Samuel's men instantly charges at Ricky, ready to retaliate, but Ricky turns and looks at him with such cold, absolute stillness that the man physically freezes. He can't bring himself to throw the punch. Samuel is dragged away with his face torn and bleeding, and from that moment on, his only thought is making Ricky pay. Samuel's solution comes in the form of Mad Dragon, a prisoner so terrifying that the prison administration had been keeping him in solitary confinement. The reason? He ate the warden's horse. Not attacked it, ate it. Samuel bribes a guard with an entire month's salary to quietly arrange Mad Dragon's release from isolation and point him toward Ricky. While all of this is being set in motion, back in Ma's cell, a guard arrives to deliver the cruelest possible news. His release has been revoked. He will now serve his full sentence. The old man drops to his knees and begs, tears streaming down his face, asking for any shred of mercy. He gets none. Instead, they beat him again and leave. That night, Ma takes his own life. By morning, word has spread to every corner of the prison. The prisoners piece together the full story in hushed conversations, passing it cell to cell like a warning. Ma had been a gentle man who made a terrible mistake. On the night he was rushing his pregnant wife to the hospital, he accidentally struck a pedestrian with his car. That was his crime. For that, he ended up here, and for being old and powerless in the wrong place, Samuel drove him to his death. Ricky hears all of this from his cell. He doesn't say anything. He just absorbs it. When the guards wheel Ma's body out on a stretcher, Ricky steps forward and pulls back the covering. What he sees ignites something deep inside him. The old man's wrists are still shackled in chains, even in death. Ricky stares at that for a long moment, then reaches down and snaps the handcuff chain cleanly apart. He sets what remains of the repaired toy train beside the body and steps back. That night, alone in a raging storm, Ricky moves through his kung fu forms with furious intensity. The rain hammers down and lightning fractures the sky, but he doesn't stop. He understands now exactly what kind of place this is. Survival here will require more than strength. It will require the willingness to fight every single day without hesitation. The next morning, Ricky heads to the washroom for a shower. Samuel appears beside him, watching with a smug expression, clearly pleased with whatever he's arranged. Most of the other inmates filter out. Then the room goes very quiet, and Mad Dragon fills the doorway. The man is enormous, a wall of muscle and hunger and barely contained violence. Before Ricky even processes what's coming, Mad Dragon launches a punch that sends him crashing backward into the concrete wall hard enough to crack it. Mad Dragon advances slowly, looking down at Ricky with something almost resembling amusement, and announces that once he's finished killing him, he's going to turn Ricky into 30 pounds of minced meat and eat every bit of it. Ricky gets to his feet. When Mad Dragon swings again, Ricky drives his fist into the man's abdomen with everything he has. The result is something out of a nightmare. Mad Dragon's stomach ruptures completely. He collapses and dies on the washroom floor. The prisoners who witnessed it can barely process what just happened. Samuel watches from the doorway, his plan completely destroyed. But instead of retreating, he pulls out a nail and lunges at Ricky. Ricky catches the nail with his bare hand, twists Samuel's wrist until his fingers snap, then slowly pulls the nail out of his own palm without so much as a grimace. What comes next happens in a fraction of a second. Ricky throws a single punch, and Samuel crumples. He's dead before he hits the ground. No one in that room makes a sound. No one moves to stop Ricky. He surrenders himself to the guards without resistance. That's when Oscar appears. He's the North Section gang leader, and he's been watching. Rather than reacting with fury, Oscar looks at Ricky the way you'd look at something extraordinarily rare and valuable. He offers Ricky a place in his gang. Ricky turns him down without a word. The guards take Ricky to a new cell and lock him inside. The impact of Mad Dragon's initial punch had shifted the 5 bullets still lodged in Ricky's chest, and the pain is extraordinary. He focuses inward, forcing his mind somewhere else, pushing through it. And as he does, memories begin to surface. He was a teenager when he first went to visit his parents' graves. Standing at the headstones, he found a stranger already there, a man paying quiet respects. The man introduced himself as Ricky's uncle, and then said something that stopped Ricky cold. He said he had known about Ricky's extraordinary physical abilities for years, and had been watching over him from a distance ever since. He asked Ricky to demonstrate what he could do, curious to test what he'd heard. Ricky moved through several techniques, but when he tried to strike his uncle directly, the man dropped him with a single counter. Ricky understood immediately that despite everything, he still had a long way to go. He asked his uncle to train him. His uncle agreed. What followed was a transformation. Under his uncle's guidance, Ricky was pushed beyond every limit he thought he had. He grew stronger, faster, and more controlled, until he reached a point where he could shatter solid rock with his bare body as if it were made of clay. The memory fades. Morning light comes through the bars. 2 guards arrive and march Ricky to the assistant warden's office. The man behind the desk is known as Cyclops, and the name fits. One of his eyes was destroyed long ago, replaced by an artificial one that sits cold and unblinking in its hollow socket. His other hand is gone, replaced by a curved metal hook, polished to a sharp edge. When Ricky enters, Cyclops is in the middle of a massive meal, tearing through enormous quantities of food with the focus of someone who experiences everything as consumption. A guard reads out Ricky's file. Orphaned young, raised in a group home, struggled academically, and was transferred to a music school, then vanished completely for 2 years. No record of his whereabouts during that period. Then one day he reappeared, killed a man, and was brought here. Cyclops closes in on Ricky and demands answers. Where was he during those missing years? How did 5 bullets end up inside his chest? Ricky says nothing. Cyclops changes tactics. He produces a letter that arrived for Ricky that morning and draws out a photograph from inside it, a young woman, Ricky's girlfriend. When Ricky reaches for it, Cyclops drives his hook straight through Ricky's hand and pins it to the desk. Then he starts throwing punches, saying he wants to understand firsthand how a man managed to kill both Mad Dragon and Samuel without breaking a sweat. Ricky spits directly into Cyclops' face. The room goes electric. Cyclops begins screaming insults about Lisa, crumpling the photograph in his fist. That's the moment Ricky's control finally breaks. He slams both hands onto the dining table and splits it completely in half. When Cyclops draws a gun and fires, Ricky deflects the bullet with his bare hand. Cyclops stumbles backward, suddenly very aware that the man standing across from him is something he has never encountered before. Ricky advances. Cyclops braces. But at the last possible instant, Ricky stops his fist inches from Cyclops' face. He doesn't make contact. He doesn't need to. A thin stream of blood begins running from Cyclops' nose from the shockwave alone. The force of a punch that never landed has already broken something inside him. Ricky retrieves Lisa's photograph, looks Cyclops in the eye, and tells him he could end his life right now if he chose to. He's choosing not to. But if Cyclops interferes in his personal life again, that calculation will change. Then he walks out. That night, Ricky sits alone in his cell, studying Lisa's face in the photograph for a long time. Eventually, he takes out a flute and begins to play. The notes drift out through the bars and down the corridor, and behind them come memories. Lisa laughing, the two of them together in moments that feel impossibly distant now. The grief in his expression is quiet but total. A guard shouts at him to stop playing and goes back to his post. Ricky keeps staring at the photograph long after the music stops. The next day, one of Samuel's surviving associates makes the mistake of leaving the bathroom alone. He's barely in the hallway before prisoners start closing in from every direction. He runs for the stairs, but a kick from above sends him tumbling back down. The prisoners surround him, and the list of grievances is long. This man had spent months carrying out Samuel's cruelties on his behalf, doing the dirty work while others suffered. He was also deeply involved in the chain of events that pushed Ma to his death. The circle tightens. The mood is brutal and deliberate. Then a prisoner named Andrew produces a saw. The man on the floor grabs Andrew's legs and begs with everything he has. Andrew raises the saw anyway, and at that exact moment, Oscar walks in. He orders Andrew to stop. No prisoner in this section gets punished without Oscar's explicit permission. Andrew doesn't back down. He points out the obvious contradiction. When Samuel was torturing everyone, Oscar said nothing. Now that they're demanding accountability, Oscar is suddenly interested in order. The defiance infuriates Oscar. He grabs the saw from Andrew's hands and uses it on him, cutting him across the face in a single vicious motion. From the upper level, Cyclops watches the entire scene with evident satisfaction, then drives his hook into Andrew's bloodied face and hauls him away. The following morning, Cyclops calls Oscar to his office and gives him a direct order: kill Ricky. The reasoning is clear. Since Ricky arrived, the prisoners have stopped cowering. If that defiance keeps building, the entire prison will eventually revolt. To make the fight unavoidable, they'll use Andrew as bait, tying him to a cross in the open yard and forcing Ricky to engage Oscar if he wants to save him. Cyclops slides a sharpened knife across the desk. Oscar takes it and leaves without a word. Out in the yard, Andrew is tied to the cross with his arms stretched wide. Oscar stands in front of him and calls out to Ricky. Ricky steps forward. He doesn't attack immediately, choosing instead to read Oscar's movements. But Oscar doesn't wait. He lands several heavy shots and drives Ricky back. The watching prisoners shout a warning. Oscar has exposed a specific tattoo on his body, the mark that signals he fully intends to follow through. Ricky has to fight for real, or Andrew dies. Something shifts. Ricky stops holding back. The fight escalates rapidly, and Ricky begins to land. Oscar is badly hurt and bleeding. Desperate, he scoops a handful of crushed glass and throws it directly into Ricky's eyes. Ricky staggers, completely blinded, and Oscar seizes the moment. He draws the knife and slices through the veins in Ricky's forearm, sending blood pouring down his arm in thick, dark streams. As Oscar moves in for the finish, Ricky slams his fist into a nearby pipe. Water explodes outward, and he drives his face into the stream, washing the glass from his eyes. Vision returns. The prisoners erupt. Oscar attacks again. Ricky catches the strike, redirects it, and sends a punch into the side of Oscar's head that drives one of his eyes clean out of its socket. Ricky then strips a length of vein from his own wounded arm and uses it to tourniquet the bleeding. The prisoners watching fall into stunned silence. Cyclops grips the railing above, unable to process what he's seeing. Oscar, with his stomach now cut open from a final desperate self-inflicted wound, pulls out his own intestines and lunges forward, wrapping them around Ricky's throat and pulling tight. Ricky tears free. Oscar, somehow still moving despite the catastrophic damage to his body, launches one final attack. Ricky catches him, lifts him overhead, and delivers a punch that collapses Oscar's skull completely. His body hits the ground and doesn't move again. Every prisoner in the north section explodes with noise. Shouts, cheers, raw release after months of living under Oscar's boot. Ricky walks to the cross and pulls it free from the ground. But Andrew is already gone. He died while the fight was happening. The celebration turns to fury. Prisoners surge toward Cyclops. But before they can reach him, the three remaining gang leaders converge on the yard. The first one grabs a prisoner's head and crushes it against the concrete. The second drives a hook through another man's stomach. The third erupts from a manhole beneath the ground and hurls the heavy iron cover directly at Ricky. Ricky shatters it midair. Cyclops calls out to Ricky and offers him the fight. 3 leaders, right now, all at once. The prisoners urge Ricky forward, but Ricky turns to face them instead. 2 people are already dead, he says quietly. He tells everyone to go back to their cells. He lifts Andrew's body onto his shoulder and carries him away. Cyclops calls after him, offering him Oscar's position as North Section leader. Ricky doesn't respond. As he walks, Ricky passes a small figure standing at the edge of the yard, a mute boy named Alan, Oscar's godson, watching Ricky with an expression that holds everything and says nothing. With Oscar gone, Alan is completely alone in this place, and he knows it. Ricky sees it too. Later that afternoon, Ricky sits beneath an open sky, pressing a leaf between his lips and drawing out a thin, clear whistle. Alan watches from a few feet away, fascinated. The next day, Alan tries it himself, folding a leaf carefully the way he'd seen Ricky do. Ricky notices, sits down beside him, and shows him how. As the sound from Ricky's flute drifts between them, Alan's eyes fill with tears. When Ricky asks why, Alan opens his mouth. His tongue has been cut out. Ricky sits with that for a moment. He understands immediately. Alan has witnessed too much about the Gang of Four's operations, and they made certain he could never testify. Ricky gives Alan his flute. Alan holds it like it's the most precious thing he's ever been handed, brings it to his lips, and produces a real note. Overwhelmed with something close to joy, he digs into his pocket and offers Ricky a handful of leaves in return. Ricky takes one, brings it to his nose. It isn't an ordinary plant, it's a drug leaf. He looks at Alan and asks where it came from. Alan points west. The West Section. Hidden from any official inspection, the Gang of Four has been cultivating drugs on prison grounds for years. It's the engine of their entire operation. Rogan, the West Section leader, has been close enough to hear the exchange. He slips away and reports back to the others. Tarzan, the South Section leader, looks skeptical. Alan can't speak, he points out. How could he have communicated any of this? Rogan brings Alan in to answer the question. Tarzan shows Alan what remains of Oscar's body, torn apart and ruined, and frames it as Ricky's doing. He asks Alan if he wants revenge. Then Brandon, the East Section leader, places Oscar's knife in Alan's small hands and gives the order. Alan refuses. He knows what Ricky is and what he isn't. He knows the truth about Oscar's death. Rogan kills Alan on the spot. They leave his body in the prison yard as a message to everyone watching. When Ricky pushes through the crowd and sees Alan lying there, the flute placed beside him, something inside him goes very still and very cold. He picks up the flute. He stares at it. Then he screams and snaps it apart. Ricky walks into the West Section and sets every drug plant on fire. The flames spread quickly through the rows of cultivation. When Rogan finds him standing in the middle of the burning field, he doesn't ask questions. He threatens to kill him on the spot. Ricky tells him that today the score gets settled. Today is for Alan. The fight that follows is unlike anything Ricky has faced. Rogan's style is outside the patterns Ricky knows, and the first few exchanges make that devastatingly clear. Rogan hits him twice with movements that send Ricky skidding across the ground. Then he crouches over Ricky and says that he has already struck the death point. Ricky's body is on a timer now, whether he knows it or not. Ricky breathes. He reaches back into everything his uncle taught him, pulling technique from memory the way a drowning man pulls at rope. He starts to rise. Then Brandon appears behind him and drives several long needles through both of Ricky's hands, pinning them together. From the other direction, Tarzan's arms close around him from behind, and Tarzan says that he won't allow anyone else to be the one who finally kills Ricky. That honor belongs to him. But the fire Ricky started has grown beyond anyone's ability to control it. Flames are rolling through multiple sections of the prison now, and the inmates are reading the chaos correctly. Doors are hanging open. Fences are weakening. Prisoners begin pouring out into the open in every direction. Cyclops gets the news and goes rigid. Then he gets the next piece. The warden is returning from leave tomorrow morning. He looks out at what the prison has become, a burning, collapsing disaster, and understands that if the warden arrives to find this, everything is finished. He triggers a full lockdown alarm and orders every guard to retrieve every prisoner by whatever force necessary. Gunfire erupts outside the walls. Rogan and Brandon break away in the confusion. Tarzan keeps his grip on Ricky and hauls him into a cell. Cyclops sees the opportunity and seals the door from outside. Then he opens a valve and pumps liquid concrete into the cell from all sides. The gray slurry begins rising from the floor, creeping up the walls, hardening as it climbs. Ricky throws himself at the iron door, strikes it once with full force, and tears it off its frame. He grabs Tarzan and pulls him out with him. Moving toward the stairwell with Tarzan over his shoulder, Ricky finds Cyclops blocking the way above. The concrete coating his body has begun to set, the weight compressing his movements, slowing him down. He loses his footing. Both he and Tarzan tumble down the stairs. Cyclops steps over them and restrains Ricky where he falls. Dawn arrives cold and official. The warden's car rolls through the main gate, and Cyclops has done everything possible to make the entrance look presentable. Red carpet laid out, guards in formation. The warden climbs out with his son Johnny beside him. Johnny immediately catches his foot on the carpet and falls. The warden's face goes red. He demands to know who arranged the carpet. Cyclops instantly pins it on a nearby prisoner. The warden pulls out his walking stick and strikes the prisoner across the face hard enough to destroy one of his eyes. Then Cyclops informs the warden about the drug fields, about who burned them, about the prisoner who has been the source of every disruption since arriving. He takes the warden down to show him. Ricky is in a cell, encased from the waist down in hardened concrete, arms restrained. He looks like a statue. Then he exhales, contracts every muscle in his body at once, and the concrete cracks and falls away in pieces. He breaks the restraints, reaches through the bars, and gets his hands around the warden's throat. Tarzan comes through the wall. Using iron bars ripped from the structure around him, Tarzan wraps them around Ricky and begins beating him with total abandon. No acknowledgement of the life Ricky saved just hours ago. Ricky fights against the restraints but can't generate enough leverage to break free. Tarzan raises the bar above his head to end it. At the last possible instant, Ricky finds the angle. One arm breaks loose. The punch he delivers into Tarzan's face produces a sound like a gunshot, and Tarzan drops and does not move. The warden backs toward a control panel. He activates the hydraulic press, a massive mechanical platform that begins descending from the ceiling toward Ricky. Ricky plants his feet and pushes against it with everything he has left, muscles shaking under the load. The warden reaches for another switch and sends 100,000 volts through the frame. Ricky's body jerks, his knees buckle, he goes down. Then Tarzan rises. Barely conscious, bleeding heavily, Tarzan gets under the press and takes the weight onto his own shoulders. Ricky, gasping, looks up and understands immediately. He breaks through the remaining bars and gets his hands under the machine, holding it in place, telling Tarzan to move. Tarzan looks back at him. He doesn't have anything left. The machine descends, and in front of everyone, Tarzan is crushed. In the silence after, a photograph slides out from Tarzan's clothing and comes to rest on the floor. Ricky picks it up. It shows Tarzan and his mother. He holds the photograph up toward the warden and speaks slowly and clearly. Every person in this prison has a family. Someone somewhere is counting the days until they come home. The warden is looking at these men like they're disposable, treating their lives as if they have no weight. Is that understood? The warden is unmoved. He triggers another mechanism, and Ricky drops into a pit below the floor. The warden calls every prisoner in the facility to assemble in the yard. He stands above the pit and announces the terms. The prisoners will bury Ricky alive, taking turns until he's covered. If he survives for 7 days, he goes free. 2 prisoners refuse. The warden shoots both of them, where they stand. The rest comply. One by one, they approach the pit and drop soil over Ricky, and one by one, under their breath, they say they're sorry. The warden has a bamboo pipe inserted through the soil so Ricky can breathe. Then he walks away. That night, every prisoner in the yard sits in the kind of silence that follows something that cannot be undone. Meanwhile, Rogan and Brandon locate the breathing pipe. Rogan forces a chunk of raw meat down into it, blocking it completely. Underground, Ricky clamps his teeth around the pipe and bites through it. He pulls the meat in and eats it. Buried beneath the earth, with nothing but darkness and time, Ricky's mind goes to Lisa. She was coming home from school on an ordinary afternoon when she passed a group of young men on the street corner openly using drugs. They noticed her. They grabbed her and brought her to whoever was running things in that area. She tried to escape. She ran across a rooftop and slipped. She died before help could reach her. Ricky spent a long time tracking down the man responsible. When he finally found him, the man fired 5 shots at close range. The bullets entered Ricky's chest. They didn't stop him. He killed the man, and he left the bullets where they were. Nearly 7 days pass. The warden sends an excavator to dig. Every person in the yard watches the machine work, completely certain they're about to uncover a corpse. The bucket pulls back the last layer of earth. Ricky is motionless. Then he moves. He rises from the ground. He snaps the chains, binding his wrists without a pause. The prisoners erupt with a noise that shakes the yard. But before the moment can breathe, Rogan closes in and hits Ricky with a strike that drops him unconscious instantly. Weakened severely by days without food or water, Ricky comes around to find himself wedged between iron bars, unable to move a limb. The warden crouches in front of him. He says he's never witnessed courage like this in his life. He offers Ricky a deal. Leave the past behind. Align with him. He genuinely needs someone with Ricky's abilities. Ricky looks at him steadily and says that he would rather lose his life than stand beside people like this. Brandon starts hitting him. Rogan arrives, holding a collection of blades, forces them between Ricky's teeth, and seals his mouth shut with tape. Then he steps back and watches. Later, the warden removes the tape himself. Ricky spits every blade directly at him. They embed in the wall behind his head. Ricky is moved to another cell. At some point in the night, another prisoner finds a way to reach him, pushing food through a gap in the bars and whispering for him to hold on. When Cyclops finds out, he kills that prisoner and dumps the body in front of Ricky's cell as a statement. Ricky has already freed himself. He strikes Cyclops from behind with enough force to leave him barely functional. When he sees the prisoner Cyclops killed to make a point, his remaining restraint burns away completely. He organizes the prisoners around him, and together they take Cyclops in front of the warden. The warden draws an unusual weapon and fires. The bullet detonates inside Cyclops, and his body comes apart. Brandon and Rogan appear. Ricky and Rogan go at each other through the prison's mechanical infrastructure, machines swinging and grinding between them as the fight tears through the facility. They try to use the equipment to end Ricky, but he stays ahead of it. He finds his moment and removes Rogan's leg with a single brutal strike. Rogan falls. Brandon turns to run. The warden shoots him in the back before he gets 3 steps. The warden and Ricky face each other. When it ends, Ricky is standing. The warden is not. Ricky walks out into the main yard carrying the warden's head. Every prisoner in the facility has gathered, and they all go quiet when they see him. He looks at every face around him, people who have been forgotten, brutalized, buried alive, stripped of every right and dignity. Then he turns toward the massive outer wall that has kept them all contained, pulls back, and drives his fist through it. The concrete explodes outward. Light and open air pour in through the gap. Ricky tells them all that it's over. From this moment, no one has to endure any of this anymore. Every prisoner is free. He walks through the hole in the wall alone, leaving behind the wreckage of a place that was never meant for justice, heading toward a horizon with no particular destination. And that is where his story ends. If you made it this far, drop your reaction in the comments below. Whether you're absolutely amazed or completely disturbed, I want to hear it. Hit the like button if this was the kind of film breakdown you came here for, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. I'll see you then.